Have you noticed how fast everything around us seems to be changing? It's almost like the world is moving at a pace that's hard to keep up with, and sometimes it feels off. One day things seem normal, and the next the way we live, work, and even think is completely different. Cities grow, technology advances, news spreads in an instant, and yet people feel more disconnected than ever. This isn't just coincidence. There are signs all around us, subtle signals that something bigger is happening if we pay attention. Look at the way information moves today. In a matter of seconds, an event halfway across the world can reach your phone, your television, your social media feed. People are connected like never before, but with that connection comes overload. The constant barrage of news, opinions, and conflicting narratives creates a sense that the world is shifting beneath our feet. Start to notice patterns. Unusual trends in society, sudden bursts of unrest, even shifts in the way people relate to each other. These aren't random. They are signs of a world in flux, signs that the foundations we once relied on are being tested. Technology itself is a perfect example. It changes not gradually, exponentially. What was unimaginable a decade ago is now common. Jobs disappear, industries evolve overnight, and the way we communicate transforms faster than most people can adapt. It creates a strange tension. People marvel at the possibilities, yet quietly worry about what's being lost in the process. Human habits, social bonds, and even the ways we understand the world are adjusting to keep pace, and that adjustment is one of the signs many overlook. Social structures are shifting too. Long-held traditions, norms, and values are being questioned, redefined, abandoned. Communities that once felt stable now feel uncertain. Relationships, family structures, and even governments are experiencing changes that ripple through society. And while some of these changes bring progress, there's also an underlying signal, a subtle warning that the balance we thought we had is being disrupted. It's as if the world itself is sending a message. Pay attention, observe the patterns, don't ignore the signs. Nature, in its own way, reflects this rapid shift. Extreme weather, unusual natural events, and ecological changes remind us that the environment we depend on is not as constant as we assume. It adds another layer of urgency to the signs surrounding us. The world is moving, changing, and signaling that a moment of awareness is needed. The first sign is clear: the world is shifting rapidly, faster than at any other time in history, and it's happening right before our eyes. And if you've been noticing these shifts too, you're not imagining it, you're seeing the signs. Have you noticed how the lines between right and wrong are no longer clear? What used to feel obvious, society once agreed was good or bad, now seems to be constantly debated. Ideas that would have shocked people a few years ago are now celebrated, and actions that were once praised are questioned or condemned. It's as if the moral compass that guided generations is spinning wildly, leaving everyone unsure which direction is truly right. This isn't just a feeling, it's one of the clearest signs that the world is changing in ways we can't ignore. Everywhere you look, values are shifting. People question traditions, challenge long-held beliefs, and redefine what it means to live a good life. And while some of this change is natural, part of growth, there's something deeper happening. The speed at which these moral shifts are taking place is unprecedented. It's no longer just isolated debates or intellectual discussions. It's a cultural wave, sweeping entire societies and altering how people see each other, how they raise their children, and how they make choices. The consequences are subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but over time the effects ripple through communities, creating confusion and uncertainty. And it's not just society as a whole, at the way individuals behave. People increasingly make choices based on convenience, popularity, or personal gain rather than a sense of right or wrong. Feels acceptable in the moment can overshadow deeper principles or values. When morality becomes flexible, the rules that once protected communities, families, and relationships begin to bend. People start to compromise on small things, then bigger things, until it's hard to know what is truly acceptable. This shift isn't merely philosophical. It affects real lives, creating tension, mistrust, and conflict at every level. Technology plays a huge role in this transformation. Social media amplifies opinions, encourages groupthink, and often rewards outrage over truth. is right one day may be ridiculed the next, depending on trends or who has the loudest voice. And as people chase validation or attention, they become more susceptible to ideas that are convenient rather than correct, more drawn to what feels good than what is true. It's a subtle but powerful indicator that the moral fabric of society is being tested in ways few are prepared to acknowledge. Even in smaller, everyday interactions, the signs appear. People argue over basic manners, fairness, and honesty in ways that feel extreme compared to the past. Compassion, patience, and selflessness are increasingly rare virtues, while self-interest, pride, and convenience dominate. It's a cultural mirror showing that when the line between right and wrong blurs, human behavior reflects that uncertainty in very real ways. The second sign is clear. Morality itself is becoming confused. What was once obvious is now debated, and what was once wrong is often celebrated. The world is sending a signal that cannot be ignored, a warning that clarity, discernment, and awareness are needed more than ever. If you're noticing this shift, pay attention. It's one of the most important signs of all. And when morality becomes uncertain, something else quietly begins to spread through the world. Deception, the obvious kind that can be seen and rejected immediately, but a subtler, more insidious form. It's everywhere, woven into the very fabric of society, often disguised as truth, wisdom, or even good intentions. And the scariest part is that it can feel entirely convincing. Every day, countless voices compete for attention, each claiming to know the right path, the correct way to think, or the ultimate truth. Influencers, news outlets, thought leaders, social media personalities, all speaking loudly, all promising guidance. But how often do we stop to ask, are these voices actually leading us somewhere real? Are they guiding us into confusion? The warning here is clear. When deception is everywhere, discernment becomes not just important, but essential. Deception rarely arrives as an obvious lie. It's crafted carefully. A small twist here, a missing piece there, a message that feels true but leaves out critical context. Time, it shapes beliefs, actions, and even culture itself. People who are sincere, who genuinely want to do the right thing, can be misled without realizing it because the deception feels comfortable, convincing, and even appealing. It's the perfect trap. The danger hides behind familiarity and trust. Technology amplifies this more than ever before. Information travels faster than ever in human history, yet truth is often buried beneath layers of opinion, exaggeration, spin. Social media algorithms reward engagement, not accuracy, meaning the most shocking, attention-grabbing messages rise to the top, regardless of whether they're true or false. Millions of people absorb these messages every day, forming beliefs, shaping decisions, and influencing communities, all potentially guided by partial truths or intentional distortions. And it's not just the messages themselves. It's the subtle shift in thinking they create. When people are constantly exposed to conflicting ideas, it becomes harder to know what to trust. Even those who seek clarity can become exhausted, skeptical, and unsure. Doubt grows quietly, shaping decisions and perceptions in ways that are nearly impossible to measure, until entire communities are operating under narratives that aren't entirely real. False leaders, charismatic figures, and persuasive voices can gain influence, not because they are right, but because they understand how to appeal to human desire, fear, or curiosity. They promise hope, control, or understanding, but often the guidance is incomplete or misleading. And as more people follow these voices, the collective direction of society begins to shift, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. The third sign is unmistakable. Deception is spreading. It doesn't always look like lies. It often feels like comfort, guidance, or wisdom. The world is sending a signal that discernment and awareness are more critical than ever. The question is simple. In a world full of convincing voices, how do you know which ones are truly leading toward truth? If you've noticed this pattern around you, take it seriously. It's a warning you cannot afford to ignore. And when deception spreads, something deeper begins to take root within humanity itself. A quiet shift in the heart that most people barely notice until it's too late. It starts with a subtle love of self, a desire to put personal comfort, success, recognition above everything else. At first, it feels harmless, even empowering. Focus on yourself, society whispers. Chase your dreams, prioritize your happiness. But when that self-focus becomes the central force in life, it changes everything. Look around today, everywhere. People are encouraged to measure their worth by what they have, what they achieve, or how others perceive them. Social media amplifies this obsession, turning lives into performances. Likes, followers, and attention become the currency of value. And as people chase these external markers, the internal compass, the sense of humility, empathy, and connection, begins to erode. Was once a natural inclination to care for others is slowly replaced with a relentless pursuit of personal gain. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It begins in small ways, a decision made for convenience rather than principle, a choice to take credit rather than share recognition, fleeting compromise that feels inconsequential at the moment. But over time, these small compromises accumulate. People become less patient, less forgiving, less willing to put the needs of others above their own. Relationships that were once rooted in mutual care now operate on transactions. Friendship, family bonds, and community connections are measured more by personal benefit than genuine love or loyalty. And it's not limited to individuals. Culture collectively embraces self-centeredness. Society begins to reflect that change. Communities fracture. Cooperation is replaced with competition. Public discourse is dominated by pride, anger, and personal agendas rather than understanding and compromise. Even acts of kindness can become performative, done for recognition or reward rather than from genuine compassion. The focus on first reshapes not only behavior but values, eroding the foundation upon which societies are built. Technology and media accelerate this process, rewarding those who prioritize themselves, broadcast their lives, and project an image of success. People are subtly taught that external validation matters more than internal integrity, and the heart begins to adjust accordingly. What was once a society guided by shared principles now becomes a collection of individuals chasing personal gratification. The signs are everywhere: rising narcissism, declining empathy, a generation more concerned with image than substance. The fourth sign is unmistakable: humanity is becoming increasingly self-obsessed. The world isn't just changing around us, it's changing within us. And as the love of self grows, the ability to recognize truth, act with compassion, and respond wisely to the signs surrounding us diminishes. If you're noticing this shift in yourself or those around you, pay attention. It's a warning that cannot be ignored, and understanding it is the first step toward finding balance before it's too late. And when self-obsession takes root in hearts, the consequences start spilling into the world around us. It begins to show in every corner of society, in relationships, communities, nations, and even the natural balance of life itself. Have you noticed how unstable the world feels lately? How tension seems to hang in the air, as if every small disagreement could explode into something much larger. That sense of unease is no coincidence. It's a reflection of deeper shifts, rippling outward from hearts and minds that have become increasingly self-centered. Look at global events. Conflicts flare between nations with alarming speed. Alliances crumble and tension escalates even over issues that once seemed manageable. Political arguments, social unrest, and economic uncertainty dominate headlines, and each new crisis feeds a growing sense of fear and unpredictability. People feel the ground beneath them shifting, even when they can't see the full picture. These aren't just isolated incidents, they are patterns, signals that the world itself is responding to a deeper imbalance. It's not only the grand scale that shows the signs. Even in our daily lives, small cracks appear. Communities are fractured, neighbors are suspicious of one another, and empathy feels increasingly rare. Families struggle to communicate, friendships are tested by small misunderstandings, and trust seems harder to come by. As more people prioritize themselves over others, tension multiplies, and fear becomes a natural response to a world that feels less certain, less predictable, safe. Technology amplifies the instability further. News spreads instantly, often with emotion exaggerated for attention. Social media broadcasts fear, outrage, and chaos into homes worldwide. It's easy to feel like the world is falling apart because, in many ways, the systems we rely on to create stability, politics, media, social norms, are being tested in unprecedented ways. The rapid flow of information, combined with human self-interest, accelerates conflict and confusion, creating an environment where uncertainty reigns. Even nature reflects this instability. Unpredictable weather patterns, violent storms, wildfires, and earthquakes seem to come more frequently, reminding us that the world isn't static. The very environment we depend on for life is responding to changes that human hands alone cannot control. It's a powerful signal that life, in all its complexity, is interconnected, and that when balance is disturbed in one area, human hearts, societies, or the planet itself, consequences ripple outward. The fifth sign is clear. The world is becoming increasingly unstable. The tension, fear, and uncertainty we see around us are not random. They are a reflection of deeper shifts within humanity itself. Selfishness, pride, and the erosion of shared values ripple outward, destabilizing everything we rely on for security, trust, and community. If you've been sensing this growing instability, both in your own life and in the world, it's a sign you cannot ignore. The patterns are real, the warnings are visible, and understanding them is crucial to navigating the challenges ahead. And when the world grows unstable, and fear, confusion, and self-centeredness are everywhere, the most important thing to realize is that these signs are not random. They are warnings. Warnings meant to make us pause, to look around, and to consider the direction our lives are heading. They are invitations to wake up, not just to what is happening outside of us, to what is happening within. Think about it for a moment. If you see cracks forming in the foundation of a house, would you ignore them and hope they go away? Of course not. You would examine them, understand the cause, and take action to prevent collapse. In the same way, the signs we are seeing around us, moral confusion, deception, self-obsession, chaos, fear, are cracks in the foundation of society, in the collective consciousness of humanity. They are urgent signals telling us to pay attention before the consequences become irreversible. And the purpose of these warnings is not to scare us unnecessarily. It is to alert us to reality, to help us recognize that there is still time to make meaningful choices, to change direction, and to align ourselves with what is right. The world will continue to shift, and challenges will continue to rise. But when we notice the signs, we gain the opportunity to respond with wisdom, discernment, and clarity. That opportunity is precious because not everyone sees it. The signs are also deeply personal. They are reflections not only of the state of the world, but of the state of each individual heart. When people ignore them, they risk becoming swept up in the very patterns of instability, selfishness, and deception that the signs are warning against. But when people pay attention, they gain insight. They can recognize false guidance, choose integrity over convenience, and act with compassion even when the world encourages self-interest. The warnings are like markers on a map. They show the dangers ahead and help navigate a path through the uncertainty. And perhaps the most powerful aspect of these signs is that they are still a choice. Observing them doesn't force anyone to act. It empowers those who do to make a difference in their own lives, in their families, and even in the broader community. Awareness becomes a tool for action. Discernment becomes a shield against deception. Integrity becomes a light in a world that often celebrates darkness. The sixth sign is not about fear, it's about awakening. The world is giving us signals, and the most critical lesson is that we can respond. We can pause, we can reflect, and we can make conscious decisions to live differently, to value truth, compassion, and wisdom. These signs are not just warnings of what could happen. They are reminders of what still can be done if we choose to pay attention, if we choose to act, and if we choose to awaken before it's too late. And if you've been noticing these signs, this is the moment to listen, to reflect, to respond, because the world is speaking, and it's calling for you to wake up.